Gentleman yields. Chair recognizes Mr. Huizenga.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I'm going to take that as a jumping off point. Both the ICRC as well as Qatar and the situation there. First, on the ICRC, is the ICRC doing enough? There is some question. It's real commitment, and all you have to do is look at some of the previous years and decades. ICRC seems to have been pretty hard on Israel over the years, and some have suggested that the ICRC is not doing enough to pursue this because of that relationship or sort of bad blood with Israel. You care to comment on that?
Congressman, I have no reason to think the ICRC is not doing enough on this, and I would just add that in fact ICRC staff have been in the direct line of fire in Gaza, doing a really critical piece of work, which is escorting ambulances with wounded from Gaza to Rafah. This has been a condition that Hamas has placed on the exit of foreign nationals, including our own American citizens, and ICRC stepped up to that task to ensure that they got there and that our citizens could get out. Okay. And we can explore that more potentially later. Turning to Qatar and the sort of the reports of Hamas leaders living a pretty lavish lifestyle in the country. Obviously, we have a very important relationship with Qatar, and they host thousands of our troops. Central Command, regional Central Command is there. What sort of conversations has the administration had with Qatar to kick out Hamas terrorists currently residing in the country, and really making sure that they are ensuring that they're not providing Hamas with any of the means to fund this again? You know, you make an interesting point, and it really goes to this question of what Hamas thinks it's representing or doing. Its leaders do live in the lap of luxury overseas, quite in contrast to the Palestinians in Gaza over whom they rule. To your question, at this point, Qatar, at our request, at Israel's request, is working assiduously on the issue of hostage release. But it's fair to say that we've been clear with all of our partners and countries around the world that it will not be back to business as usual going forward.
Okay. I actually happen to also serve on the Financial Services Committee and chair the Oversight and Investigation Subcommittee. And just last week we had a hearing on terrorism financing and what was going on. And my colleague, Mr. Hill, myself, Mr. Barr, have all had amendments today on some of the appropriations bills, looking at how we choke off that terrorism funding. And I guess I want to make sure that it's not just Iran that we're looking at, that there are other countries and in that neighborhood. Obviously, you know, Qatar has I've seen reports have provided over $1 billion in various aid over the last decade. Lots of concern about fungibility that we have. So, how is the administration ensuring that assistance entering Gaza doesn't have sort of this dual purpose, dual use purpose, whether it could be cash, which is very, very fungible, but it could be fuel, it could be medicine and supplies that while the West intends, or the Red Cross or anybody else intends for that to be going to civilians, could be easily diverted?
At this point, what is going into Gaza, the humanitarian assistance is being very carefully vetted as it goes through multiple sort of checks. This is part of what is slowed down, frankly, the stream of assistance going in. I take your point on the larger question of financing, and believe me when I say that sort of a counter-Hamas effort globally will be a top priority going forward.
I've got just a couple of seconds left. You know, we know about Iran's oil sales, to the tune, some reports of $80 billion this past year. We also know that they are selling electricity to Iraq. I have had a letter to Secretary Blinken with myself and Blaine Lukemeyer, who heads up the Terrorism Finance Subcommittee for Financial Services, asking some very specific questions. Are you aware of this letter?
I'm not. I'll certainly look for it.
We will send it to you because this is very important that we look at this. This notion that Iraq has the ability, and this administration changed policy on this without coming to Congress. They are now converting those into euros. Euros are far more fungible than Iraqi dinari. Nobody's going to be buying and selling goods and services in that. They are certainly in euros, and we're going to continue to push on this, Mr. Chairman. And I know my time is up, but I appreciate the responsiveness, and we're going to be following up with you on some of those issues. And with that, I yield back. Thank you.
Gentleman's time has expired. Chair recognizes